It's 7:52. It's something we all need more of, but often lack. So how can we make sure we're getting truly getting the rest that we need? Here to give us the inside scoop on how and why we should be prioritising deep rest is author and friend of the show, Jess Stuart. Morena, Jess.
Morena, Lucas.
The big question everyone had on the team, what is deep rest?
Yeah, this is a good one, right? Because we think rest, but deep rest is something often we're deeply uncomfortable and out of practice doing. So deep rest is not just a nap or a Netflix binge. It's something that restores our mental bandwidth, reconnects us to who we are, and gives us that sense of deep rest.
Yeah, so this is nothing to do with sleeping. Is this a new term for meditation, or is it just about sometimes giving yourself an opportunity to be bored?
This is it. So sleep is one way of deep rest. It's probably the only way that as humans we kind of do daily, and some of us struggle with that. But deep rest is exactly that. It's about doing nothing. And that can be super uncomfortable and something we're not conditioned to do in this kind of always on hustle culture.
We have that New Zealand mentality though, don't we? In Kiwis it's like, oh, you just truck on, I'll have a bit of a rest when all the jobs are done, or I'll sleep when I'm dead, off you go. Is this about actually putting time away to just sit quietly?
Yes. So exactly what you've just said. You know, we are in this culture of the rest is saved for after the work is done. And I'm often telling people I work with and myself that rest isn't time away from work, rest is the work. Because when we do this deep rest, we have more focus, we get more creative, it improves our mood and builds our resilience as well. So often we think it's something that we have to sacrifice performance to do, but it's actually something that allows us to perform.
So when people are sitting, you said about that before, feel deeply uncomfortable about this, have we engineered our minds these days with phones and social media and that we don't stop? Like, this is just constantly going.
Yes, because we are always looking to stimulate our minds, and you're right, social media has been massive in this space. We used to have breaks in between what we did, even if it's short breaks like waiting for the lift to arrive at the floor or the kettle to boil.
The phone's out.
And now, yep, we're filling our mind with stuff, so we never really get the opportunity to truly disconnect and rest properly.
Okay, so how do you do it?
One of the top tips that I'm often talking about is this concept of white space. So it's time that we schedule into our diaries that is white space, no noise, no tasks. So that's not I'm taking a break from the screen and I'm going to go and put a load of washing on. That's just, even if we get used to it, small things first and start slowly by just sitting with a cup of tea in the morning for 10 minutes and doing nothing. And it feels uncomfortable, but the more we get used to it, the easier it is to disconnect and find this opportunity not to stimulate our mind, but to tap into this deep rest.
Does this fit into things like, if we say that sort of, you know, when people are active relaxers, like doing a puzzle, would that be within that framework, or is it even simpler than that?
It's even simpler than that. So often we can be active relaxers, and yes, that gives us a break because we're switching up our tasks. But deep rest is more than that. It's totally disconnecting and it's doing nothing, and that's where we struggle.
Doing nothing. And doing, you know, I think 50, 60 years ago, that was just part of life, is that sometimes you just had to sit quietly. Yeah. But we've evolved that much in this way. Do you think we can, like, when you talk to people, they go, I can't do that, I don't want to be left with my own thoughts?
Yes, this is the big problem.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, right? And that's why it takes some getting used to. But as you just said, this is something we used to do. We mastered the art of this, we've just lost touch with it. And I often think of this, deep rest is not about doing nothing, it's about us reconnecting to everything that we are. But to do that, we have to stop doing, and that's the hard bit.
So you're saying to people, put a meeting in a diary. Make that time, lock it in, and this is part of your everyday. Will you see the immediate benefits of that afterwards? Is it like taking a nap where you wake up fresh, or is this something that over time you'll just sort of learn to just slow it down a bit?
Yeah, this is the hard bit, right? Instant gratification and instant reward doesn't often come with deep rest. So we see the impacts of deep rest much further down the track, like potentially with 10 years extra on the end of our life. But we get that instant gratification from scrolling our phones, from putting a load of washing on, from knocking some emails out of the inbox. So that again is why this is hard to do, because we don't often get that instant gratification and that reward in terms of seeing the difference in our resilience that's now been built, our mood that's now lifted, or the extra 10 years that we might have on our lifespan.
Yeah, it's a nice sell point though, 10 years on top of it by putting a little bit and doing nothing. My biggest challenge, I think, would be doing nothing but sitting there and not falling asleep. Is that whole thing of we are just at a level of exhaustion sometimes that we're not even identifying?
Yeah, I often say to people, if you do nothing and as a result you fall asleep, That's not a bad thing because clearly you needed the sleep and you wouldn't have got it had you not have sat and done nothing. But once we are rested and refreshed, that aspect of deep rest means that when we sit, we are able to tap into reconnecting to who we are, the things that matter, managing that mood, building that resilience, all of the good stuff that comes from that opportunity of deep rest.
I love that moment you talk about having a cup of tea, though. It's such a Kiwi thing, isn't it? We just go and have a cup of tea. That's our way to centralise and relax. Hey, Jess, Stuart, thank you very much for joining us this morning, helping us all take a moment in time and just being bored, isn't it? It's interesting that we've forgotten how to be bored.
Yeah,
We're just constant.
I often tell my boys when they say, "Oh, I'm bored," I go, "Oh, well, bored people are boring."
Yeah, yeah.
So go and figure it out. Everything's going to be fine. You just have to be able to switch off your computers, etc., and just go and do something. I do like, though, the idea, Jess, of actually putting this time in your diary. I mean, I've not done that at this point. I have caught myself doing exactly what you've described and stopping. Not all the time, and I have moments where I do and moments where I don't. But we would put in time for a massage, we would put in time for something else to look after our well-being, but yet we don't factor in time just for us to do this, which is just to rest, right?
And unless we factor in the time, it never happens, right? We find other things to do, we get busy, or we forget, so it's being intentional.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm very task-orientated with it, though. Like, I love going out into the garden, and in my mind, that's a relaxing endeavour and things. But I'm very much thinking about one thing to the next thing, and this is what I have to do within that space. Not just sitting there and quietly looking at it, because my mind goes, I need to pull that out, I need to tie that up.
And then that's part of the problem, though. We don't actually give ourselves that space to be able to just not have anything to think about or do. That's why I love, and haven't been able to do this any time recently, but getting away from the house.
Yeah.
Because if you're at home,
there's jobs to do.
There's always things to do. There's always something that needs dusting or something that needs repairing or something, you know.
And we call that relaxing, but we're doing something. So this is the difference between doing, even if it's in the garden or at the gym, and being. And that's the bit we struggle with.
Yeah.
Embrace a bit of boredom. I love it. Just sit quietly and don't think.
So good to have you back, Jess. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Coming on.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.